Well, that's the first time I've heard that song. I reckon it's the first time many of you have heard that Christmas song, and it's an absolutely beautiful melody. It's called All I Want for Christmas, and it was sung in part by Alfredo Malabello, and I've got to say that Alfredo's in the studio with me right now. That's a beautiful song, Alfredo. Welcome to the program.
Thanks, Harvey. Thank you.
And who was the beautiful lady singing with you there?
That's Jodie Douglas. She's actually my beautiful darling.
Oh, is she?
Yeah, she wrote the words and I wrote the melody, and sort of we worked together, and she sang on it and I sang it, and it's a song that we were hoping to sort of get out before Christmas, but it just, with all the pressure and all the touring and it just didn't quite make it, but we'll get it ready for next year.
You were telling me, and I didn't quite know what to expect, you said, well, this is just a rough sort of copy of what we planned. We've got choirs and orchestras to put into it before we finished. It sounded pretty finished to me, I've got to tell you.
Well, thank you, but yeah, it's still in its infancy, and we've got a fantastic choir master working on a 80 voice choir arrangement for that song, and I've got my son Fabian working on the orchestral component of it. So yeah, it's music running everywhere here.
Terrific. We'll get to your fairly recent CD called Ciao Bella very soon, but you're a Perth resident now these days?
Yes, I am.
Right.
I live here, and I love Perth, and I look after my two sons, and live with them, and hang out with them, and yeah, it's good.
Because you were born in Adelaide, weren't you?
Born in Adelaide, 1959, 11th of December.
Really?
Yeah.
It's my youngest daughter's birthday. Not
Really?
1959, but certainly the 11th of December.
Yeah,
so
there you go.
Yeah, okay.
She a handful?
No, she's lovely, actually. Yeah, she's got two little handfuls of her own.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. And you came to Perth. Did you come to Perth around about the 87 for the around about the defence of the America's Cup time? Because you had a lot to do with entertaining and the entertainment scene in those rather heady days.
It was awesome. I was touring around Australia, and then I heard about the America's Cup build-up and the hype behind it. So I decided to come to Perth November 86 on the eve of the America's Cup, and I was thrust straight away into playing every Friday lunchtime at the Mediterranean restaurant in Subiaco.
Gosh, we remember that well.
Mate, it was just unbelievable. We had stockbrokers, we had, the royal family in Monaco come over, and during that whole build-up before the actual Cup, January 87.
The famous red phone booth where, because we didn't have mobile phones in those days, and some of the super high rollers and the heavy hitters of the local financial landscape used to go into this little phone booth and do multi-million dollar deals over lunch.
That's right, they did. They did, and it was amazing. And empty bottles of Dom Perignon being thrown into the fountain,
followed by the people who drank them.
Followed by and I was playing piano there every Friday lunchtime, and I knew nothing about Perth and nothing about the so-called glitterati of Perth, and it was just a big surprise. And from there, people started asking me to play at their private parties and New Year's Eve and on their yachts, and all of a sudden, like Alfredo is come here like just trying to make a living out of music into being thrust into all this party world and things I've seen. I will stop now. So.
Yeah, right place at the right time, I suppose, but you wouldn't do it without a great talent. When did you start to discover that you were a particularly gifted musician?
Well, I don't know. I mean, all I know is that that's all I ever wanted to do. When I used to go to school, I wasn't really that good a scholar, but when it came to music and art, I was really into it. And then I went to Ross Trevor College in Adelaide, and every recess or lunchtime or afternoon recess, I'd go to the chapel, and they had this Hammond organ with a Leslie speaker there, rotating speaker, which was like the first time I ever seen it. So I just fell in love with it there and just kept playing. And then I joined a band and just went on from there. I did my electronics degree in Adelaide, and if I was smart, I would have kept on with it. But I just, there was more satisfaction and more chicks in music. So.
Well, fine. If you want to go there, Alfredo, tell us more.
No,
right.
I'm the voice of romance.
There you go. You were obviously you have an Italian background. Tell us about Mum and Dad and when they came over here and what prompted their arrival. Because I suppose about that time we had an influx, didn't we, of Southern European immigrants to Australia?
Yeah, the Australian government was making it easy to get European immigrants over, especially Italians, Germans, Greeks. and they'd come over with their knowledge of, agriculture and winemaking and food and cheese making and bread making, and Mum and Dad came separately, and they met in Adelaide, and they were married 6 months after they'd met, and that's the whole. But my family's huge, so I remember as a kid, we'd get together and make the tomato sauce and the sausages and make the bread, and we'd go to the country and get livestock and for making sausages, and we'd go and pick boxes and boxes of grapes and apples, and we'd never go to the store. Everything was in our backyards, we'd grow spinach, we'd grow turnips, tomatoes, basil, potatoes, everything. I think that's why a lot of the older Italian people managed to save so much money.
They worked hard.
They worked hard, but they didn't have
and we're not going to get political here, but when they came to the country, they had pretty much nothing, and didn't receive the sort of handouts which are delivered to some people who arrive in Australia for the first time these days.
Yeah, it's totally different. It was totally different then. But I consider myself through and through Australian, with an Italian heart, and an appreciation of many cultures. But I'm very proud of my Italian culture. But I love Australia, and the good thing about it is that even when I go back to Italy, and I've been a few times, I go back there as an Australian. I don't go back there as an Italian, because as much as I love Italy, I find that in Italy sometimes it can be a little bit pompous, sometimes it can be a little bit, sort of like, wear this and wear that, and look at me, and not everywhere, but in general terms, I find a little bit of too much pompousness. Is that the word?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Pretentiousness, probably.
Pretentiousness, and all that sort of stuff. And I understand where they get it from, but I go there and I say, you know what, man? I remember going into an Italian bank, right?
In Italy.
In Italy, right? In Italy, right? And here we are lining up to get served, and in comes a doctor. Because we knew he was a doctor, because the bank teller,
a stethoscope.
The bank teller said, signore dottore, vieni qui, and he just jumped the queue, right? And my father, I was with my mum and my dad, and my father said, hey, what is this? What's going on? Yeah. Says, hey, dottore. I says, nah, mate, you're in the back of the line, just like us.
Yeah.
Get back
Otherwise, you'll need a doctor.
Otherwise, you need my father was in Australia long enough to become an Aussie and to know what it's like to understand that equality. And it was great. It was awesome. My father was always a bit of a rebel rouser anyway. He couldn't stand anyone trying to act like they were bigger than him.
Indeed. We've got a lot to talk about. We're going to need to take a break. I want to talk about Ciao Bella, your new album. And also I want you to name names, because you did play to royalty. You've played to the glitterati of not only Perth but other places as well. So
no worries.
Okay, you're allowed to name drop in 3 minutes.
Questo ragazzo della via Gru si divertiva a giocare con me, ma un giorno disse vado in città, e lo diceva mentre piangeva. Io gli domando, non sei contento? Vai finalmente a stare in città.
Well, that's from Ciao Bella, from your album Il Ragazzo della Via Gluck. Was that The Boy from Gluck Street, is it? Or something
that's
like
it,
that? Yeah. That was, for those that have got a keen ear for music, adapted by an American called Verdell Smith, and she called it Tar and Cement. So,
that's right.
And
she did a great version.
She did a great version. Somewhere, among all my 45s, I've got the original, and I can't think for the life of me who the singer is who sung Il Ragazzo della Via Gluck in
his
Italy.
name?
His?
Yeah, his.
Oh, well, I got a female version, so it wouldn't be the original.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, the guy that wrote it was a guy called Adriano Celentano.
Yeah, I do have a Celentano, yeah. Adriano Celentano.
Yeah,
right. Now, Joe Scarfo's called us, our great mate from the meeting place. Scarfo wants to know what part of Calabria you come from.
All right, Scarfo. Hey, Joe, this is Alfredo here. No, sorry, mate, I'm not from Calabria. My mum's from Napoli, and my father's from Ascoli Piceno, vicino Pescara.
So there you go.
Okay, so, but I hope I still get the Christmas ham, eh?
Yeah, no, had you said yes, I'm Calabrese, as were my parents and grandparents, ham and a turkey were coming your way, never mind. Yeah. And Grumpy says, our producer from Ciao you've got a song named after him, Fatti un pianto.
Fatti un pianto. Yeah. Fatti un pianto means, that's an original song. It means, go and have a good cry.
Yeah, well, that's a bit like him, actually, yeah. Now, who's this royalty you played to in the 80s?
Okay, I've played for the royal family in Monaco.
Mm.
I played for Princess Margaret at Brian Burke's homestead, and which Laurie Connell, and Laurie Connell hosted a party, which was really weird because I was playing piano there up on the balcony, and I remember looking over the balcony and there's all these security guys and there's Princess Margaret enjoying the day and and I remember her waving at me, saying she liked the music, and then Laurie Connell, every time he'd open up a new bottle of champagne, he'd come up and sit next to me and share the first glass with me every time he did it.
That was pretty reasonable stuff too, wasn't it?
It was pretty good stuff, yeah. So.
Yeah. Now, you went to Melbourne, and you can elaborate on this because I'm reading this. Yeah. The America's covering in Perth before moving on to witness the underbelly of Melbourne.
Yeah, well, that's what happened. I went to Melbourne and looking for a gig. I'm pretty resourceful when it comes to looking for gigs. So I met a guy who knew a guy who owned a club in King Street in Melbourne, and not knowing anyone, I said, sure, okay. They had a nice grand piano. It was a nice club. They had live bands late at night, and I was playing in the piano bar. It was really nice, and I'm in there playing every weekend, and there are guys in there which I met. There's a guy called Mick Gatto, and there was a guy called Alphonse Gadgetano, and there was another guy called Carl Williams, and then I met Jason Moran and his father, and then Sam Kinnenberg, which they used to call him the Munster, and a whole heap of people, very, very colourful characters who I had literally no idea. I knew they were dudes, you know what I mean? I knew they were dudes, but I didn't really fathom what was going on behind the scenes. But eventually, bit by bit.
You were just a piano player.
I was a piano, yeah, and please don't shoot me. Yeah.
That's right.
And luckily I was behind the piano, just in case there was a shoot, I could duck. You know what I mean? And I tell you what, I got to know them pretty intimately. Intimately meaning one-on-one. Because I learned pretty quickly. I mean, I'm Italian. I've been surrounded by... unfortunately or fortunately for my street smarts, I've had experiences around the world working in New York and all that, and I've been around mobsters, you know what I mean? I've played for the royal family, and I've also done, Christmas parties for biker gangs. Not only because I was employed to do it. It's not because I'm involved or do anything, you know what I mean? It's just...
Gig's a gig.
Gig's a gig, and the more scary, the more I'd say yes.
And you're a bit of an actor.
Yeah, that was really weird. How that happened. Every 3 years or so, I go through a bit of a crisis point. I need to reinvent myself. I need to find new territory to conquer. And I had a bit of a sort of a breakdown 3 years ago, and I thought, oh, what's going to happen now? I need to do something. I need to figure out. And I was walking through Coles one day in Subiaco, and I saw a sign up on the public notice board, acting workshops. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to try that. Because I always wanted to do it and just see it just as a hobby. And I went there, and pretty much the classes were full of young girls and young guys, all wanting to be stars.
Right.
And I was the old guy sitting in the back. And every 8 weeks, you do 8 weeks of comedy or 8 weeks of suspense, and and then 8 weeks of film noir, and then 8 weeks of romance and seduction. And every 8 weeks, you have to be grouped as 3 or 4 people, and you've got to produce a 3 or 4 5-minute short film. And then at the end of that 8 weeks, professional agents, producers, directors come in there and critique. And because I was the old guy in the class, not only did they use me not only did I do my film, but other groups asked me to be in their films as well. So in the space of like a year and a half, I'd finished 22 short films.
Goodness me. And you finished up with playing a role in an SBS feature. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, I went my first ever paid gig, because 22 short films for free, which you do because you're a student. And I went, and one of these films won. I won an award as best actor for a thing called The Big Shave, and for an ECU film festival. And then an agent here, Vivian from Frog Management, saw me, asked me to go for a screen test for Two Fists, One Heart, a film that was being shot here in Perth. I didn't get it, but the casting company that was filming all the screen tests kept the screen test. And when this SBS miniseries came along, Carla Cometti PD, with Vince Colosimo and Diana Glenn and Robert Mamone, these people from Underbelly, same directors, producers, all that, and they got me to screen test for that, and I got the role, a major role, as her father, Leo Cometti, who ran a restaurant, was the head of the family, and sung in Italian in the kitchen, in the restaurant, as he was cooking with all his chefs and sous chefs and all that. And that's what happened. And from 6 one-hour episodes over 4 months, and that's what opened the door to me getting a record deal with SBS and Universal.
Fantastic.
And I've been trying all my life to get a record deal. I have tried and tried and tried, and for some reason or another, it didn't happen. But you keep trying. Yeah,
well, you've done well with Ciao Bella. Just before we let you go, and time is on the wing, unfortunately.
Sorry,
No, we've got time. You are going to be joining Michael Bublé when Michael Bublé comes to Perth, and there are 3 shows at Sandalford, and when are they on? March 4, 5 and 6 at Sandalford Estate in Margaret River.
4, 5 in Sandalford in Swan Valley, and the 6th in Margaret River.
Sorry, you're right. 4th and 5th in the Swan Valley, and the 6th at Margaret River. You're on all 3 shows?
I'm on all 3 shows, and it quite possibly could be that I'm on the national tour as well. And my managers now, I've just been signed up to a management company called Zachariah, who are promoting Bublé, and they were closely associated with Paul Dainty, and they are getting me. They've got me the WA thing, but they're also trying to get me the Australia thing, and that's looking good. And they're also trying to get me the Southeast Asian tour, because the music that I'm doing is actually quite suited to that whole bossa nova, loungy, cha-cha, rumba, and I love that sort of cheeky, sexy Latin American sort of loungy dance hall thing. I like that a lot, and it seems to be working.
Yeah, it's working well. Great album, Ciao Bella. If you're of any, those that are of Italian heritage should get a copy of that. Available at all good record stores and some of the bad ones?
Even the bad ones.
That's
yes.
Good, yeah.
Yep.
And the new one, which I've given back to you, haven't I?
The Christmas song.
Yeah, which is really work in progress. Looking forward to that one coming out. Will that be part of an album?
Well, that'll be for next year. Yeah. But I tell you what, if your listeners want a copy for free, and I'm more than happy to give them for free, just go to my website, www.alfredomalabello.com, which is ALFREDOMALABELLO.
.com. And you'll give them a freebie.
Yeah, just get them to email me and go to my join my contact, list.
They just follow their nose, yeah.
Yeah, follow your nose. Send me an email, and I will send you a free copy of the new Christmas song. And do it quickly, because I want everyone to share in this Christmas song before Christmas.
Yeah. We'll try and play it again a couple of times, Alfredo. Thanks for coming in. It's been terrific to meet you for the first time.
Thank you.
And I'm sure our paths will cross again. All the very, very best for the future, mate.
And thank you, Harvey, and thank you, Steve, for the support. It's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's 27-2.
KFC 2020.